Introduction. Respect is not given because you demand it. It's earned because you no longer need to explain yourself. Most people spend their entire lives talking too much, defending too much, reacting too much. They raise their voice to be heard. They over-explain to be understood. They argue to be respected. And none of it works. Because respect doesn't come from volume. It doesn't come from words. It comes from something deeper, something most people never develop. It comes from presence. This audiobook will teach you how to command respect without saying more than necessary, how to set boundaries without sounding weak, how to stay calm when others try to shake you, and how to build the kind of authority that people feel the moment you enter a room. You won't find motivational hype here. You won't find empty theory. What you'll find is a system, a psychological framework built on how human behavior actually works. Not how we wish it worked, not how it sounds good in a quote, but how it functions in real life, in real conversations, under real pressure. This book is for adults who are tired of being interrupted, dismissed, or walked over. It's for people who've tried being louder and realized that didn't solve anything. It's for anyone who's done explaining themselves and ready to start living with quiet, unshakable authority. You'll learn why people don't respect words. They respect presence. You'll discover how needing approval kills your power. You'll understand the psychology of status in everyday conversations and how to use it without being aggressive. You'll master verbal boundaries, strategic silence, and calm dominance. And you'll become the person whose words end discussions. Not because you argue the best, but because you've learned to communicate from a place of groundedness. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming strong. It's about speaking less and meaning more. It's about controlling your emotional state so that no one else can control it for you. And it's about earning respect not by fighting for it, but by embodying it. If you're ready to stop over-talking and start commanding attention, this book will show you how. If you're ready to be taken seriously without raising your voice, keep listening. Because by the end of this audiobook, you won't just understand respect, you'll live it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why people don't respect words. They respect presence. Maria walked into the Monday morning meeting 5 minutes late. She didn't apologize. She didn't rush. She simply placed her notebook on the table, made eye contact with the team lead, and sat down. The room, which had been buzzing with small talk, went quiet. Not because she said anything, but because she carried herself like someone who didn't need to. Across the table sat Daniel. He'd been talking for 10 minutes straight, explaining why his project was delayed, listing reasons, defending decisions, over-clarifying details no one asked about. People were checking their phones. No one was really listening. He had all the words. Maria had all the presence. And in that moment, the difference was obvious. Presence is not what you say. It's what people feel when you're in the room. It's the energy you carry, the calm you project, the certainty in your posture, your tone, your silence. Most people think respect comes from having the right answer, the best argument, or the loudest voice. But that's not how human psychology works. People don't respect your words until they respect you. And they don't respect you because of what you said. They respect you because of how you made them feel in your presence. When you walk into a room uncertain, people sense it. When you speak seeking approval, they hear it. When you explain too much, they lose interest. Your body language, tone, eye contact, and energy communicate far more than your vocabulary ever will. And if those elements are weak, your words won't land, no matter how smart they sound. The psychology of presence. Human beings are wired to assess status and competence within seconds. Before you finish your first sentence, people have already decided whether you're worth listening to. This judgment isn't conscious, it's instinctive, it's rooted in survival patterns from our evolutionary past. We assess who leads and who follows, who's confident and who's anxious, who's grounded and who's scrambling for validation. This process happens through micro cues: how you hold your body, the steadiness of your gaze, the pace of your breathing, the tone of your voice. File Mo. Web. If you enter a space with tension in your shoulders and uncertainty in your eyes, people will unconsciously categorize you as lower status. If you enter calm, upright, and still, they'll lean in. Presence isn't about dominance. It's about self-possession. It's the ability to be comfortable in your own skin, to occupy space without apology, and to communicate without needing external validation. When you have presence, people listen before you speak. When you lack it, they tune out even when you're talking. What destroys presence? Most people sabotage their own presence without realizing it. They do it through over-talking. They do it by filling every silence with nervous words. They do it by explaining themselves when no explanation was requested. And they do it by reacting emotionally when someone challenges them. Let's be clear. Over-explaining is not clarity. It's insecurity. When you feel the need to justify every decision, defend every choice, and clarify every statement, you're signaling that you don't trust your own authority. File. You're asking for permission. You're seeking reassurance. And people can feel that. Emotional reactivity is another presence killer. The moment you raise your voice in frustration, your status drops. The moment you get defensive, you've lost the frame. The moment you let someone else's tone dictate yours, you've handed them control. File. Respect doesn't come from winning arguments. It comes from staying calm when others lose composure. Real-life scenarios. At work, your manager questions your decision in front of the team. You have two choices. You can defend yourself with a long explanation, listing all the reasons you were right, or you can pause, maintain eye contact, and say calmly, "I stand by that decision. If you'd like to discuss it further, I'm available after the meeting." The second response commands respect. The first one leaks it. In relationships, your partner accuses you of not listening. You can react immediately, interrupt, justify, explain all the ways you do listen. Or you can take a breath, let the emotion settle, and respond with, "I hear you. Let's talk about this when we're both calm." One reaction escalates. The other de-escalates while maintaining your dignity. File on Bruton's web. In social settings, someone makes a subtle jab at you in front of others. Most people either laugh it off awkwardly or fire back with a defensive comment. Both responses show that the jab landed. Instead, you can hold eye contact for 2 seconds, say nothing, and let the silence do the work. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power when used intentionally. Web nodumun, web nomot. Exact scripts, what to say and what not to say. Instead of, "I'm sorry, but I just think that maybe we could try," say, "Let's try this approach." Instead of, "I don't know if this makes sense, but I feel like," say, "Here's what I see." Instead of, "You're wrong and here's why," say, "I see it differently." Then pause. Instead of, "I didn't mean it like that, what I meant was," say, "That's not what I said." Then stop talking. The pattern is simple. Remove the filler, remove the apology, remove the need for approval. Speak in statements, not questions. Speak with certainty, not hedging. And when you've made your point, stop talking. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The 2-second pause. Before responding to any question or statement today, pause for 2 full seconds, breathe, then respond. This breaks the habit of reactive speaking and trains you to respond from groundedness instead of emotion. File. Exercise 2. Reduce your word count by half. In your next 3 conversations, say half as much as you normally would. Notice how people lean in more. Notice how your words carry more weight. Presence grows in the space you don't fill with noise. File. Exercise 3. Practice stillness. Sit in a public place for 10 minutes without checking your phone, fidgeting, or looking away when someone makes eye contact. Stillness is a form of presence. Most people are uncomfortable with it. You need to become comfortable. Exercise 4. Eliminate apology language. For 1 full day, remove these phrases, "I'm sorry, but..." Does that make sense? If that's okay with you. Pay attention to how much you unconsciously seek permission. Then stop doing it. Presence is not a personality trait you're born with. It's a skill you build through repetition, awareness, and discipline. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you strengthen it. Every time you speak with certainty instead of seeking approval, you deepen it. Every time you stay calm when others escalate, you prove it. People will respect your words when they respect your presence. And they'll respect your presence when you stop giving it away. Chapter 2. The Approval Trap. How Needing Validation Kills Your Authority. Tom was presenting his quarterly report to the executive team. He'd prepared for days. His numbers were solid. His strategy was clear. But every 2 minutes, he looked up from his slides and asked, "Does that make sense? Are we good with that? Is everyone following?" By the 3rd time, the CFO leaned back in her chair and stopped taking notes. Tom had good ideas, but he couldn't stop asking for permission to have them. Needing approval is one of the fastest ways to lose respect. Not because people judge you for it, but because it signals that you don't trust your own value. And if you don't trust it, why should they? Every time you seek validation, you hand over your authority. Every time you ask if you're doing okay, you communicate that you're not sure. And uncertainty, no matter how polite, kills respect. This isn't about arrogance, it's about self-trust. It's about knowing what you bring to the table and not needing someone else to confirm it. Confident people don't ask if their idea is good. They present it and let the room decide. They don't fish for compliments. They don't check in every 5 minutes to see if they're still valued. They show up, contribute, and move forward, without needing constant reassurance that they belong. The psychology of the approval trap. Human beings are social creatures. We're wired to seek acceptance, to avoid rejection, to calibrate our behavior based on how others respond to us. This instinct kept our ancestors alive in tribal settings. Being cast out meant death. So we learned to scan for approval, to adjust, to fit in file mursinomast web for tenem. But in modern life, this instinct has become a liability. When you're constantly monitoring how others perceive you, you lose access to your own inner authority. Your decisions become reactive. Your communication becomes tentative. Your presence becomes conditional. You're no longer leading from your center. You're performing for an audience that may not even be paying attention. Approval seeking shows up in subtle ways. It's the upward inflection at the end of your statements, turning them into questions. It's the nervous laugh after you say something serious. It's the need to explain your choices when no one asked. It's the habit of checking people's faces for validation after you speak. File. These micro-behaviors accumulate, and they tell the world, "I'm not sure I deserve to be here." The trap deepens when you get approval, because now you're hooked. You start chasing that feeling. You modify your opinions to match the room. You soften your boundaries to keep the peace. You say yes when you mean no because rejection feels dangerous, and slowly, you lose yourself. You become a reflection of what you think others want, instead of who you actually are. What authority actually looks like. Authority is not loud. It's not aggressive. It doesn't need to prove itself. Authority is quiet certainty. It's the ability to make a decision and stand by it without needing everyone to agree. It's the willingness to be misunderstood without rushing to explain. It's the strength to hold your ground when others challenge you. Not because you're stubborn, but because you've thought it through. Webb. People with authority don't ask for respect. They embody it. They don't wait for permission to speak. They don't apologize for taking up space. They don't soften their message to avoid discomfort. They communicate clearly, calmly, and directly. And they're okay if not everyone likes it. This doesn't mean they're rigid. It means they're rooted. They listen to feedback. They adjust when it makes sense. But they don't change their core just to be liked. They value their own judgment more than they value applause. And that self-respect becomes magnetic. People are drawn to those who don't need them. It's a paradox, but it's true. Real-life scenarios. At work, you propose a new process in a team meeting. Someone pushes back immediately. Your instinct is to backtrack. Well, it was just an idea. We don't have to do it. I just thought maybe. Instead, pause. Look at them calmly and say, I hear your concern. Let's discuss the specifics after we hear everyone's input. You didn't defend. You didn't collapse. You stayed grounded and redirected. File. In relationships, your partner says, you never make time for me. Your first impulse might be to defend yourself with a list of everything you do. But that's approval-seeking disguised as defense. Instead, you say, I hear that you're feeling disconnected. Let's figure out what would help. You acknowledge their feeling without abandoning your own reality. File. Web. Stew. In social settings, you share an opinion and the group goes quiet. The silence feels uncomfortable. You want to fill it. I mean, that's just my take. I could be wrong. Stop. Let the silence sit. If your opinion has value, it doesn't need a disclaimer. If it doesn't, adding more words won't fix it. Web. 19. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, I hope this is okay, but I was thinking maybe we could say, here's what I'm proposing. Instead of, does that make sense? Am I explaining this right? Say, let me know if you need clarification. Instead of, I'm sorry to bother you, but do you have a second? Say, do you have 5 minutes to discuss this? Instead of, I might be wrong, but I feel like. Say, here's my perspective. Instead of, is that okay with you? Are you sure? Say, let me know if that doesn't work. Notice the pattern. You're not asking for permission to exist. You're stating your position and leaving space for dialogue. You're not apologizing for having thoughts. You're offering them with quiet confidence. And you're not triple-checking if people approve. You're trusting that they'll speak up if they don't. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The No Explanation Challenge. For the next 48 hours, stop explaining your choices unless someone directly asks. If you say no, don't follow it with 5 reasons. If you make a decision, don't justify it to people who didn't question it. Notice how much energy you've been spending seeking approval through explanation. File. Exercise 2. Speak in statements, not questions. Record yourself in a conversation. Listen back. Count how many times you turned a statement into a question with your tone. I think we should start earlier is seeking approval. I think we should start earlier is stating your view. Train your voice to land with certainty. File. Exercise 3. Sit with disapproval. This week, say one thing you believe that you know won't be popular. Don't defend it. Don't soften it. Just say it, and sit with whatever reaction comes. Practice tolerating disapproval without collapsing. This is how you build emotional independence. File 2 web soabstun. Exercise 4. Delay responses. When someone asks your opinion, pause for 3 seconds before answering. Don't rush to fill silence with what you think they want to hear. Use that pause to check in with what you actually think. Then say it plainly. File. Exercise 5. Notice your body language. Pay attention to what you do after you speak. Do you smile nervously, look away, fidget? These are approval-seeking behaviors. Practice making a statement, then staying still. Let your words breathe. Let people sit with them. Webb. The approval trap is not about other people, it's about you. It's about the story you've told yourself that your worth is conditional, that you need to earn your place in every room, that your value depends on whether people agree with you. None of that is true. Your authority doesn't come from consensus, it comes from self-knowledge. It comes from doing the work, making the decision, and trusting yourself enough to stand behind it. It comes from being willing to be wrong and still not needing someone else to tell you you're okay. The moment you stop asking for approval is the moment you start commanding respect. Not because you became louder, not because you became harsher, but because you finally became certain, and certainty more than anything else is what people follow. Chapter 3. Speaking from groundedness, not emotion. Rachel was sitting across from her manager during her performance review. 3 minutes in, he said something that felt unfair. Her chest tightened, her jaw clenched. She could feel the heat rising. Before she even realized it, she was talking, fast, defensive, explaining, justifying. Her voice was louder than it needed to be, and the more she talked, the less her manager listened. She left that meeting feeling unheard, not because her manager was unreasonable, but because she spoke from emotion instead of groundedness. Speaking from emotion feels urgent, it feels justified, it feels like you're standing up for yourself. But it almost never lands the way you want it to. When you're emotional, your voice changes, your logic weakens, your message gets lost in the energy. And people stop listening to what you're saying because they're too busy reacting to how you're saying it. Groundedness is different. Groundedness is when you feel the emotion but you don't speak from it. You feel the anger, the frustration, the hurt, but you pause, you breathe, you let the wave pass, and then you respond from a place of clarity. That's when your words have weight. That's when people actually hear you. This is not about suppressing emotion. It's about not letting emotion control your communication. There's a difference between feeling something and being ruled by it. One makes you human. The other makes you reactive. And reactive people don't command respect. They command concern. The psychology of emotional reactivity. When you're triggered, your brain shifts into survival mode. The amygdala takes over. Blood flow moves away from your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, language, and self-control, and floods your body with stress hormones. File. Your heart rate spikes. Your thinking narrows. You go into fight, flight, or freeze. And in that state, you're not capable of calm, strategic communication. You're just reacting. The problem is that other people can sense this immediately. They hear it in your tone. They see it in your body language. And unconsciously, they categorize you as emotionally unstable. Web. Even if what you're saying is valid, they stop taking you seriously. Because you've lost control of yourself. And if you can't control yourself, why should they trust your judgment about anything else? Groundedness, by contrast, signals emotional maturity. It signals that you can handle pressure without falling apart. It shows that you're not a slave to your feelings. And that quality, emotional self-regulation, is one of the most respected traits in any relationship, workplace, or social setting. File. Web. What groundedness looks like. Groundedness is not cold. It's not detached. It's not robotic. Groundedness is feeling fully and responding wisely. It's being in touch with your emotions without being controlled by them. It's the ability to say, I'm frustrated right now and I need a moment before we continue this conversation. That sentence shows strength, not weakness. Grounded people don't avoid conflict. They engage with it, but from a centered place. They don't raise their voice to be heard. They lower it. They don't speed up when challenged. They slow down. They don't fill every pause with words. They let silence do the work. Webinoston, weblen. And because they're not leaking emotional energy, their words land with precision. When you speak from groundedness, your tone is steady, your breathing is controlled, your body is still. You're not pacing, not gesturing wildly, not clenching your fists. You're present, you're calm. And that calm becomes contagious. It de-escalates situations, it invites dialogue instead of defense. It shifts the entire energy of the conversation. File. Real-life scenarios. At work. A colleague publicly criticizes your project in a meeting. Your first instinct is to fire back, defend your work, list everything they got wrong, maybe even throw in a jab of your own. Instead, you pause. You take a slow breath. You make eye contact and say calmly, "I see it differently. Let's schedule time to go through the details one-on-one." You didn't avoid the conflict. You redirected it to a better environment, and you stayed in control. File Serawan Web. In relationships, your partner says something hurtful during an argument. Your body wants to lash back. Your emotion wants revenge. But you stop. You feel the anger fully. You don't push it down, but you don't speak from it. You say, "What you just said hurt. I need a few minutes." Then you step away. You return when you can engage without attacking. That's groundedness in action. File Web Tomao 2. In social settings, someone makes a passive-aggressive comment about you at a dinner party. Everyone hears it. Your stomach drops. Your impulse is to respond immediately, either with humor that hides your hurt or a sharp comeback. Instead, you hold their gaze for 2 seconds, say nothing, and turn your attention elsewhere. Your silence communicated more than any comeback could. It said, "I'm not rattled. You don't have power over me." Web Sinamun, Web Sinaun. Exact scripts, what to say and what not to say. Instead of, "That's not fair. You always do this and I'm sick of it." Say, "I don't agree with that. Let's talk about this when we're both calmer." Instead of, "How dare you say that to me? Who do you think you are?" Say, "That crossed a line. We'll continue this conversation when you can speak respectfully." Instead of, "You never listen. I've said this 100 times." Say, "I've mentioned this before. It still hasn't changed. What do we need to do differently?" Instead of, "Fine, whatever. I don't even care anymore." Say, "I need a break from this conversation. Let's revisit it in an hour." Instead of, "You're making me so angry right now." Say, "I'm noticing I'm getting frustrated. I'm going to step outside for a moment." Notice the shift. You're not denying your emotion. You're naming it without letting it drive your words. You're taking responsibility for your state instead of blaming the other person. And you're creating space instead of escalating. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The breathing reset. The next time you feel triggered, before you speak, take 3 deep breaths. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and pulls you out of fight or flight mode. Practice this daily, not just in heated moments, so it becomes automatic. File. Exercise 2. Name the emotion silently. When you feel anger, frustration, or hurt rising, pause and silently name it. "I'm feeling angry right now." This simple act creates distance between you and the emotion. You're observing it, not becoming it. Then decide if this is the right moment to respond or if you need more time. File. Exercise 3. The 10-minute rule. Make a personal rule. If you're emotionally activated, you don't respond for at least 10 minutes. Walk away. Write it out. Move your body. Let the emotional charge settle. Then come back and respond from clarity. You'll be shocked at how different your words are when you wait. File. Muld. Exercise 4. Lower your voice. This week, every time you feel yourself about to raise your voice, do the opposite. Lower it, slow down, speak softer than feels natural. This forces you to stay in control and often causes the other person to calm down as well. File someone. Web. Exercise 5. Record and review. Record a conversation where you're discussing something that matters to you. Listen back. Notice your tone, pace, and word choice. Are you speaking from emotion or groundedness? Be honest. Then practice the same conversation again, this time from a centered place. Repetition builds the skill. File. Groundedness is not a personality trait. It's a practice. It's a choice you make in the moment when your body is screaming at you to react. And every time you choose to pause, breathe, and respond instead of react, you're building a reputation, not just with others, but with yourself. You're proving that you can be trusted under pressure, that you don't fall apart when things get uncomfortable, that you can hold your center even when everything around you is chaos. And that quality, more than intelligence, more than charm, more than credentials, is what earns lasting respect. People don't remember what you said when you were calm. They remember how you handled yourself when you weren't. Speak from groundedness, and you'll be remembered as someone who can't be shaken. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Status in Everyday Conversations. James and his co-worker Alex both presented ideas in the same meeting. James spoke for 12 minutes. He used complex language, cited studies, explained every detail. Alex spoke for 3. He made one clear point, paused, and sat back down. The room buzzed with questions for Alex. James was ignored. Same room, same topic, different status signals. Alex understood something most people miss. Status in conversation is not about how much you know. It's about how you carry what you know. Status is always present in human interaction. It's not about hierarchy on paper. It's about perceived authority in the moment. And it's determined not by your title, but by how you communicate. 2 people can have the same job, same education, same experience, but one will be listened to and the other will be talked over. The difference is status signaling, and most people get it backwards. High-status communication is calm, brief, and unbothered. Low-status communication is rushed, over-explained, and approval-seeking. You can feel the difference instantly. One person speaks and the room leans in. Another person speaks and people check their phones. It's not about charisma. It's about behavioral cues that trigger subconscious respect. The good news, status is not fixed. It's fluid. You can shift it in real time by changing how you show up in conversation. You don't need a promotion. You don't need permission. You just need to understand the rules. The psychology of status. Signals humans are wired to assess dominance and competence within seconds of interaction. This happens unconsciously through body language, vocal tone, eye contact, and conversational patterns. File stum. Web. Sed. In our evolutionary past, understanding social hierarchy kept us safe. We needed to know who to follow, who to challenge, and who to avoid. Those instincts are still active today, even in a conference room. High-status people take up space without apology. They speak slower. They pause longer. They make direct eye contact and break it first. They don't rush to fill silence. Webs are nut. Low-status people shrink. They speak faster. They avoid prolonged eye contact. They laugh nervously. They over-explain. They seek reassurance after every statement. File. Here's the critical insight. These behaviors don't reflect your actual value. They reflect your internalized sense of value. If you believe you deserve to be heard, you'll act like it, and others will believe it too. If you're unsure, you'll telegraph that uncertainty in 1,000 micro ways, and people will treat you accordingly. Status is also contextual. You might feel high status at home and low status at work, high status with friends and low status with authority figures. The goal is not to dominate every space. The goal is to stop shrinking in spaces where you belong. High status versus low status communication. Low status. Sorry to interrupt, but I was just wondering if maybe we could possibly consider trying a different approach. I mean, if that's okay with everyone, of course. I don't want to step on any toes. High status. Let's try a different approach. Pause. Here's what I'm thinking. The difference is striking. The low-status version is riddled with hesitation, apology, and approval-seeking. The high-status version is clear, direct, and assumes the right to contribute. Same message, completely different signal. Low status. Talks more, explains more, justifies more, fills every silence with words. Speeds up when challenged. Voice rises at the end of sentences, turning statements into questions. High status. Talks less, says more, comfortable with silence, slows down under pressure. Voice drops at the end of sentences, landing with certainty. File kubamon web sidomor chibetans. Low status. Constantly checks for approval. Does that make sense? Are we good? Is that okay? Needs external validation to feel secure. High status. States position and waits. Trusts that if someone disagrees, they'll speak up. Doesn't need constant reassurance. Web. Freund. Low status. Reactive. Responds immediately to every comment. Defends quickly. Takes things personally. Emotional tone is unstable. High status. Responsive. Takes time before replying. Asks clarifying questions. Stays emotionally neutral. Tone is steady and controlled. File. Real-life scenarios. At work, you're in a meeting where someone interrupts you mid-sentence. Low-status response. Stop talking immediately, apologize, or raise your voice to talk over them. High-status response. Pause. Hold eye contact with them calmly. Wait for them to finish their interruption, then continue exactly where you left off without acknowledging the interruption. You didn't react. You stayed in your frame. File. In relationships, your partner says, "You always do this." Low status response. "No, I don't. That's not true. You're being unfair." High status response. "What specifically are you referring to?" You didn't defend. You asked for clarity. That's strength, not weakness. Web 20. In social settings, someone challenges your opinion in front of others. Low status response. Backtrack, soften your stance, laugh it off, or argue aggressively. High status response. I see it differently. Pause, no elaboration unless asked. You stated your position and let it stand. Web. With authority figures, your boss questions your decision harshly. Low status response. Over-explain, justify at length, get defensive, or collapse and agree immediately. High status response. I made that call based on X and Y. Happy to walk you through the reasoning if that would help. You didn't shrink. You offered information without groveling. Files on web. Ten. Exact scripts what to say and what not to say. Instead of, "I'm sorry, I just have one more thing to add if that's okay." Say, "One more point." Then make it. Instead of, "This might be a stupid question, but," say, "I have a question." Instead of, "I totally get what you're saying and you're probably right, but," say, "I see it differently." Instead of, "Does everyone agree? Are we all on the same page here?" Say, Let me know if anyone sees this differently. Instead of, sorry, I'm just trying to explain, say, stop apologizing. State your point once. Instead of, I could be wrong, but I think maybe, say, here's my take. The pattern is simple. Remove hedging, remove apologies, remove the constant need for agreement, speak in clear statements, trust your right to contribute, and stop managing everyone else's comfort. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. Slow your speech. For the next 3 conversations, consciously speak 20% slower than normal. Pause between sentences. Let your words breathe. High-status people are never in a rush to be heard. Practice this until it feels natural. File. Web. Exercise 2. End sentences with a period, not a question. Record yourself speaking. Notice how often your voice rises at the end of a statement, turning it into a question. Practice landing your sentences with a downward tone. We should meet Tuesday. Not, we should meet Tuesday. File. Exercise 3. The Silence Challenge. In your next meeting or conversation, after you make a point, stop talking. Don't elaborate. Don't check if people understood. Don't fill the silence. Just stop and let your words sit. Watch what happens. People will either engage or move on. Both are fine. Web onnodein, web onnode. Exercise 4. Hold eye contact longer. Practice maintaining eye contact for 3 seconds longer than feels comfortable. Don't stare aggressively, but don't look away first out of nervousness. This one shift changes how people perceive your confidence. Web 17. Exercise 5. Eliminate filler words for 24 hours. No, like, sort of, kind of. These are low-status verbal tics. When you feel one coming, pause instead. A pause communicates control. Filler words communicate uncertainty. File. Exercise 6. Take up space. Sit with your back straight, shoulders back, arms on armrests, not folded in your lap. Stand with your weight evenly distributed, hands by your sides or loosely behind your back. Don't shrink your body to make others comfortable. Your physical presence influences your mental state and others' perception of you. Web 7. Status is not about being better than others. It's about not communicating that you're less than others. It's about showing up with the quiet certainty that you have value and the right to be heard. Not because you're perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you're present, prepared, and unafraid to take up space. People respect those who respect themselves, and self-respect is visible in every word you choose, every pause you hold, every time you refuse to shrink. Master the psychology of status, and you'll command respect in every conversation, not by demanding it, but by embodying it. Chapter 5. How to set verbal boundaries without sounding defensive. Nina's coworker had a habit of dumping last-minute tasks on her desk with a smile and a, "You're so good at this, can you handle it?" For months, Nina said yes. She didn't want to seem difficult. She didn't want conflict. But each time she agreed, she lost a piece of her respect, both from her coworker and from herself. One afternoon, it happened again. This time, Nina looked up calmly and said, "I won't be able to take that on. You'll need to find another solution." No apology, no long explanation, just a clear boundary. Her coworker blinked, nodded, and walked away. Nina felt something shift inside her. She'd stopped defending her time and started protecting it. Boundaries are not walls. They're not punishments. They're not rejections. Boundaries are simply clear statements about what you will and will not accept. They protect your energy, your time, and your self-respect. But most people struggle to set them because they confuse boundaries with conflict. They think saying no makes them the bad guy. So they say yes when they mean no, and then resent the person who asked. Here's the truth. You teach people how to treat you. Every time you allow behavior that crosses your line, you've moved the line. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you've signaled that your needs don't matter. And over time, people stop asking what you want, because you've trained them that you'll accommodate anything. Setting boundaries without sounding defensive is a skill, and it's one of the most important skills for commanding respect. Because people don't respect those who have no limits. They respect those who know their limits and communicate them clearly. The psychology of boundaries. Boundaries are an expression of self-respect. They say, my time matters, my energy matters, my values matter. When you have weak boundaries, you're communicating the opposite. You're saying, I'm available for anything, my needs are negotiable, I'll bend to keep the peace. Weberstumped. File. The reason people struggle with boundaries is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being seen as difficult, selfish, or unkind. Fear that if they say no, they'll lose the relationship, the job, the approval. But here's the paradox. Weak boundaries don't preserve relationships. They erode them. Because resentment builds, exhaustion builds, and eventually you either explode or withdraw. Strong boundaries, by contrast, create clarity. They tell people where you stand. They eliminate guessing. They reduce conflict because expectations are clear from the start. And they build respect because people value those who value themselves. Webs. The key is delivery. You can set a boundary with calm authority, or you can set it with defensive anger. One lands with respect. The other invites pushback. The difference is not in what you say, it's in how grounded you are when you say it. What defensive boundaries sound. Like defensive boundaries are emotional, they're reactive. They often include justification, over-explanation, or blame. They sound like, I can't do that because I'm already swamped and nobody ever helps me and I'm always the one who has to pick up the slack and it's not fair. That's not a boundary. That's a complaint. It invites debate. It invites the other person to argue with your reasons or offer solutions you don't want. It makes your boundary conditional. If your circumstances change, the boundary disappears. Defensive boundaries also sound apologetic. I'm really sorry, I wish I could help, but I just don't think I can right now. Maybe another time, though. I feel so bad about this. That's not a boundary either. That's asking permission to have a boundary. It communicates that your no is negotiable, and people who sense that will push until you cave. What grounded boundaries sound. Like grounded boundaries are calm, they're clear, they require no justification. They sound like, I won't be able to do that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. I need you to stop doing that. Notice, no apology, no explanation, no emotional charge, just a simple, firm statement. The power is in the brevity, the power is in the certainty. You're not asking, you're informing. File tilde. Web. Grounded boundaries don't invite debate because they're not presented as opinions, they're presented as facts. You're not saying, I don't think I can, you're saying, I won't. The first is soft and negotiable, the second is firm and final. Real-life scenarios. At work. Your manager asks you to stay late again the third time this week. You've already sacrificed your evening plans twice. Low boundary response. Ugh, okay, I guess I can stay. Or defensive. I'm so tired of this. I have a life, you know. High boundary response. I won't be able to stay tonight. If this is urgent, let's talk about reprioritizing my workload tomorrow. You didn't apologize. You didn't attack. You stated your limit and offered a solution path. In relationships. A family member makes a passive-aggressive comment about your choices. Low boundary response. Ignore it and let resentment build or explode with, you always do this. High boundary response. I'm not open to discussing that. Let's talk about something else. If they push, I've said I'm not discussing it. Then redirect or leave the conversation. File. Web. With friends, a friend constantly cancels plans last minute. You're tired of it. Low boundary response, it's fine, no worries, but it's not fine. Or defensive, you never respect my time. High boundary response, I've noticed this pattern, I need consistency. If you can't commit, let me know earlier so I can plan differently. Clear, calm. Consequence implied. Web, phone. In social settings, someone asks an intrusive personal question. Low boundary response, answer even though it makes you uncomfortable or laugh awkwardly and deflect. High boundary response, I don't discuss that. Then pause. Let the silence sit. Don't fill it with nervous laughter or apologies. Web. 9. Exact scripts, what to say and what not to say. Instead of, I'm so sorry, I really wish I could, but I just have too much going on, and say, I'm not available for that. Instead of, you're always interrupting me and it's so rude. Say, I wasn't finished. Please let me complete my thought. Instead of, I guess I could, but I really don't want to, but if you really need me to, say, no, that doesn't work for me. Instead of, stop treating me this way, I deserve better. Say, I need you to stop doing that. If it continues, I'll leave the conversation. Instead of, maybe we could possibly set some kind of boundary around this. Say, going forward, here's what I need. Instead of, I feel like maybe you don't respect my time, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Say, I need you to respect my time. That means confirming plans at least 24 hours in advance. The pattern. Remove emotion, remove apology, remove negotiation. State the boundary as a fact, then stop talking. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The no explanation rule. For the next week, every time you set a boundary, do not explain why. Just state it. I won't be able to do that. If someone asks why, you can choose to share context, but you don't owe it. Practice feeling comfortable with that doesn't work for me as a complete sentence. File. Exercise 2. Identify your non-negotiables. Write down 3 boundaries you've been avoiding. Where are you saying yes when you want to say no? Where are you tolerating behavior that drains you? Get specific. Then script out how you'll communicate each boundary calmly and clearly. Web pass on. Exercise 3. The broken record technique. When someone pushes back on your boundary, don't engage with their reasons or arguments. Simply repeat your boundary in slightly different words. I understand, and I'm still not available. I hear you, and my answer is still no. Repetition without escalation shows you're immovable. File Komuru Web. Exercise 4. Practice the pause. After you state a boundary, resist the urge to keep talking. Say your piece, then be silent. Let them process, let them respond. Don't fill the discomfort with more words. Silence after a boundary is powerful. It shows you mean it. Web, Snononun Web. Exercise 5. De-escalate with calm repetition. If someone becomes emotional or defensive when you set a boundary, lower your voice and slow your speech. Stay calm. I understand you're upset and my boundary stands. Don't match their energy. Your calm will either bring them down or make it clear the conversation is over. File. Exercise 6. Set a consequence and follow through. If a boundary is repeatedly violated, state a clear consequence. If you continue interrupting me, I'll end this conversation. Then follow through, every time. If you state consequences but never enforce them, your boundaries become meaningless. Web in. Boundaries are not mean. They're not selfish. They're necessary. They protect your well-being and preserve your respect, both with others and with yourself. When you set them clearly, calmly, and consistently, you're not creating conflict. You're preventing it. People will test your boundaries. That's human nature. They'll push to see if you mean it. And the first few times you hold your line, it will feel uncomfortable. You might feel guilty. You might worry you're being harsh. But that discomfort is growth. That's you learning to value yourself as much as you value others. The people who truly respect you will honor your boundaries. The people who don't were never respecting you in the first place. They were using you. And those people don't deserve access to your time, energy, or peace. Set the boundary, hold the line, and watch what happens. You'll lose some people, but you'll keep yourself, and that trade is always worth it. Always. Chapter 6. Saying less and being taken more seriously. David was known in his office as the guy who always had something to say. Every meeting, every brainstorm, every hallway conversation, he filled the space with words. He thought it made him look engaged, valuable, present. But his manager saw it differently. When David finally asked why he wasn't being considered for leadership, the feedback was blunt. You talk too much. We can't tell what actually matters to you because everything gets the same amount of airtime. Most people believe that talking more makes them more relevant, that contributing to every conversation proves their value, that silence means they have nothing to offer. But the opposite is true. The more you talk, the less weight your words carry. The more you fill every silence, the less people listen when you do speak. Respect is not earned by volume. It's earned by precision. Saying less is not about being quiet for the sake of it. It's about being selective. It's about speaking when you have something worth saying and staying silent when you don't. It's about understanding that your words are currency, and when you flood the market, you devalue them. People who command respect don't dominate conversations. They contribute strategically. They listen more than they speak. And when they do speak, people stop and pay attention, because they've learned that when this person talks, it matters. The psychology of verbal economy. Human attention is a scarce resource. In any conversation, people are constantly deciding where to invest their focus, and they invest it in people who demonstrate value, not through quantity but through quality. Web. When you talk constantly, you train people to tune you out. Your voice becomes background noise. Your contributions blur together. People stop tracking what you say because there's too much of it. But when you speak rarely and with purpose, your words cut through. People lean in. They remember. They quote you later. File Mustids. Web. This is why the quietest person in the room often holds the most influence. Not because they're mysterious, but because they've learned to edit themselves. They've learned that less is more. And when they finally speak, everyone listens because scarcity creates value. Overtalking also signals insecurity. It signals that you need to prove yourself, that you're afraid if you're not constantly contributing, you'll be forgotten or overlooked. But high-status people don't worry about being forgotten. They trust their presence. They trust that their value is evident even when they're silent. Web Tomara Pru. The cost of overtalking. When you talk too much, several things happen. You dilute your message. If you make 10 points, people remember none of them. If you make one strong point, it sticks. You reveal too much. Information is power. The more you share about your plans, your process, your uncertainties, the more leverage you give away. Strategic people keep their cards close. File. You create openings for attack. Every extra sentence is another opportunity for someone to misinterpret you, challenge you, or use your words against you. Brevity reduces vulnerability. You lose the room's energy. Long-winded speakers exhaust their audience. People stop engaging. They start planning their exit. The longer you talk, the less they hear, file. You expose your need for validation. Constant talking is often a bid for attention, approval, or reassurance. People sense this, and it lowers your status. So what saying less actually looks like. Saying less doesn't mean becoming withdrawn or passive. It means being intentional. It means asking yourself before you speak. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? If the answer to any of those is no, stay quiet. High-impact communicators speak in headlines, not essays. They make their point in 2 to 3 sentences, then stop. They don't explain every detail unless asked. They don't preemptively defend their position. They trust their idea to stand on its own, file and web. They also listen actively, not waiting for their turn to talk, but actually absorbing what others say. This makes their contributions more relevant when they do speak. They're responding, not just broadcasting. And they're comfortable with silence. They don't rush to fill every pause. They understand that silence has power. It creates space for others to think, to respond, to reveal themselves. Web. Web. Real-life scenarios. At work. You're in a strategy meeting. Someone proposes an idea you disagree with. Everyone starts talking at once, picking it apart, offering alternatives, getting louder. You say nothing. You wait. When the noise dies down, you say calmly, "I see 3 problems with that approach." Then you list them in 1 sentence each. You stop. The room is quiet. The CEO looks at you and says, "Okay, what do you suggest instead?" You've just commanded the room, not by talking the most, but by talking the least. File Chinabuan Wibanandanutil. In relationships, your partner is venting about their day. Your instinct is to offer advice, to fix, to relate with your own stories. Instead, you listen, you nod, you stay present. When they finish, you say, "That sounds really hard. What do you need from me right now?" 4 sentences, but they land deeper than a 10-minute monologue ever would. File. In social settings, a group debate breaks out about politics. Everyone has an opinion, voices overlap, you stay quiet. Someone turns to you. "What do you think?" You pause. Then, "I think both sides are missing the real issue." You state it in 1 sentence. You don't elaborate unless asked. People remember what you said hours later because you didn't bury it in paragraphs. Web to novice. In conflict. Someone is angry at you, listing everything you did wrong. Your impulse is to defend each point, to explain, to counter. Instead, you let them finish. Then you say, "I hear you. Give me some time to think about this." That's it. You don't argue. You don't justify. You create space, and that restraint communicates more strength than any rebuttal could. File to til. Web. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, "So I've been thinking about this a lot and I have a few ideas, well actually several ideas, and I think maybe we could consider trying this approach or possibly this other thing. I'm not totally sure which is better, but both could work or maybe a combination. What do you guys think?" Say, "Here's what I propose." State it in 2 sentences. Thoughts? Instead of, I see where you're coming from and you make some good points and I don't totally disagree, but I also think there's another way to look at this and maybe if we considered." Say, "I see it differently." Instead of, "Let me explain. No, wait, actually, let me back up and give you some context first. So basically what happened was." Say, "Here's the situation. State the core issue. Here's what I need." Instead of, "I have so many thoughts about this, like where do I even start? Okay, so first of all." Say, "Pick your strongest thought. Say that one. Stop." Instead of, "Does that make sense? Am I explaining this okay? Should I go over it again?" Say, Make your point, then be quiet. If they need clarification, they'll ask. The pattern. Cut your word count in half, then cut it in half again. What's left is what matters. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The one-sentence rule. For the next 3 conversations, limit yourself to one-sentence responses unless directly asked to elaborate. Notice how much more attention your words receive. Notice how much clearer you become when you're forced to distill your thoughts. File. Exercise 2. Count to 3 before speaking. In group settings, resist the urge to jump in immediately. Count to 3. Let others speak first. Only contribute if you have something distinct to add, not just a rephrasing of what's already been said. Web 9. Exercise 3. The listening audit. In your next conversation, aim to listen 70% of the time and speak 30%. Track it mentally. You'll be shocked at how much you learn when you're not busy planning your next comment. Web do tenodo ston. Web tomado 7. Exercise 4. Remove filler sentences. Record yourself speaking for 2 minutes on any topic. Listen back. Identify every sentence that didn't add new information, just restated, softened, or hedged. Then re-record the same message without those sentences. You'll cut your time in half and double your impact. File. Exercise 5. Exit when you're done. Practice making your point and then stopping, even if the silence feels awkward. Don't add a closing remark. Don't ask if people understood. Don't summarize what you just said. Make your point. Full stop. Let it breathe. Web 2. Exercise 6. The 24-hour email rule. Before sending any message that's more than 3 paragraphs, wait 24 hours, then reread it and cut everything that isn't essential. Send the shorter version. You'll find that 90% of what you almost said wasn't necessary. File. Saying less is not about withholding. It's about respecting your audience's time and attention. It's about trusting that your value doesn't need constant reinforcement. It's about understanding that power is quiet, not loud. The world is full of people talking. What it's missing is people who know when to stop. Be one of those people. Speak when it matters. Stay silent when it doesn't. And watch how quickly people start treating your words like they're worth listening to. Because they are. But only if you treat them that way first. Chapter 7. Calm dominance. Staying steady when others push. Marcus was sitting across from a client who was losing his temper. The project was behind schedule and the client was shouting, blaming Marcus, threatening to pull the contract, waving his hands for emphasis. Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't interrupt. He sat still, maintained eye contact, and waited. When the client finally ran out of steam, Marcus spoke, calmly, slowly. "I understand you're frustrated. Here's what we're going to do to fix this." The client's shoulders dropped. His tone shifted. Within 5 minutes, they were problem-solving. Marcus didn't win by fighting back. He won by refusing to be moved. Calm dominance is not aggression. It's not intimidation. It's the ability to remain steady when everyone around you is losing control. It's emotional leadership. It's showing through your behavior that chaos doesn't touch you. And when you can do that, when you can stay grounded while others are unraveling, you automatically become the most powerful person in the room. Most people think dominance requires force, that you have to be louder, sharper, more aggressive than the other person. But that's not dominance. That's reactivity. And reactive people are easy to control because their emotions are predictable. Calm dominance, by contrast, is unpredictable in the best way. You can't be baited. You can't be rattled. And that makes you dangerous in a negotiation, a conflict, or any high-pressure situation. Calm dominance says, "I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to win this argument. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to lead." And leadership doesn't shout. It steadies the room. The psychology of calm under pressure. When someone raises their voice, gets emotional, or becomes aggressive, they're trying to regain control. They feel threatened, destabilized, or powerless, so they escalate. It's a primal response. The louder they get, the more uncertain they feel inside. File. If you match their energy, if you escalate with them, you've handed them control. You've proven that they can manipulate your emotional state. You've entered their frame. And now you're both spinning. But if you stay calm, you do something far more powerful. You refuse to play the game. You become the anchor. And anchors don't move no matter how rough the water gets. File. Neuroscience backs this up. When you stay calm in the presence of someone who's activated, you trigger something called emotional co-regulation. Your nervous system begins to regulate theirs. Your calm becomes contagious. They start to mirror your tone, your pace, your stillness, often without realizing it. File. This is why hostage negotiators speak slowly and softly. They're not trying to match the intensity, they're trying to lower it. Calm dominance is also a status signal. High-status individuals remain composed under pressure. Low-status individuals panic, react, defend. When you stay steady while someone else is falling apart, you're signaling, I'm in control here. Not of you, but of myself. And self-control is the highest form of power. What calm dominance looks like. Calm dominance is not passive. It's active restraint. It's choosing not to engage emotionally even when provoked. It's staying in your body, controlling your breath, and speaking with intention. Physically, your posture is upright but relaxed. Your hands are still, no fidgeting, no pointing, no clenched fists. Your facial expression is neutral, not cold, just steady. Your breathing is slow and deep. Your movements are deliberate, not rushed. Vocally, your voice is lower than theirs, your pace is slower. You speak softly, not weakly, but with quiet authority. You don't raise your volume to be heard, you lower it, and people lean in because they have to. File. Smooth. Emotionally, you're not detached, you're present, but you're not absorbing their chaos. You're observing it without being consumed by it. You feel the tension, but you don't react to it. You let it pass through you. File. Conversationally, you don't interrupt. You don't defend immediately. You let them finish. Then you pause 3 full seconds before you respond. That pause is everything. It shows you're not rattled. It creates space. It shifts the energy. What breaks calm dominance? You lose calm dominance the moment you raise your voice. Volume is a loss of control disguised as strength. Speak faster. Speed signals anxiety. Interrupt defensively. Interruptions show they got to you. Justify yourself repeatedly. Over-explaining is a status drop. Show visible frustration. Sighing, eye-rolling, tense body language, all read as weakness. Match their emotion. Anger meeting anger is just 2 people out of control. Every one of these behaviors hands power to the other person, because now they know they can move you. And once they know that, they'll keep pushing. Real-life scenarios. At work, a coworker publicly blames you for a mistake in a meeting. Everyone's watching. Your heart is racing. You want to defend yourself immediately, to correct the record, to push back. Instead, you take a slow breath. You look at them calmly and say, "That's not accurate. I'll clarify the details in an email after this meeting." Then you return your attention to the agenda. You didn't argue. You didn't escalate. You stated a fact and moved on. The room respects that. File. In relationships, your partner is yelling. They're frustrated, hurt, and they want you to engage at that level. You don't. You sit down, physically lowering yourself to appear less threatening. You slow your breathing. You say quietly, I can see you're upset. I want to talk about this, but I need us both to be calm first. I'm going to step outside for 5 minutes. When I come back, let's try again. You're not abandoning them. You're setting a boundary on how the conversation will go. File to web. In negotiations, the other side is pressuring you to decide now. They're using urgency, mild aggression, veiled threats. You don't react. You sit back in your chair. You let the silence sit for a moment. Then you say, with no emotional charge, I'll need time to consider this. I'll get back to you by end of week. They push again. You repeat, same tone. End of week. You're immovable, and that immovability forces them to adjust. Web 14. In conflict, someone insults you in public. It's personal. It's meant to provoke. Everyone's waiting for your reaction. You hold their gaze for 2 seconds. You don't smile. You don't frown. You just look at them. Then you say calmly, interesting take. And you turn your attention elsewhere. You didn't defend. You didn't attack. You acknowledged and dismissed in the same breath. That's dominance. Web 19. Exact scripts, what to say and what not to say. Instead of, don't you dare talk to me like that. Who do you think you are? Say, lower your voice. Pause. We can continue this conversation when you're calm. Instead of, that's not true, you're wrong, let me explain why you're wrong. Say, I see it differently. Pause. Let them respond or not. Instead of, why are you attacking me? I didn't do anything wrong. Say, I'm not going to engage at this level, let's talk later. Instead of, fine, whatever, I don't even care anymore. Say nothing, leave the space, return when you've decided how you'll engage. Instead of, you're being ridiculous right now. Say, I need you to take a breath, this isn't productive. Instead of, stop interrupting me. Say, pause, wait for them to stop, then calmly, I wasn't finished. Continue exactly where you left off. The pattern. You don't meet emotion with emotion. You meet it with calm, clear direction. You don't escalate. You de-escalate by refusing to move. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The breath lock. The next time someone raises their voice at you, focus entirely on your breathing. Inhale slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Do this 3 times before you respond. This physiologically calms your nervous system and prevents reactive speech. File. Exercise 2. The volume drop. Practice speaking quieter when others get louder. Not whisper quiet, just noticeably softer. Force them to quiet down to hear you. This reclaims control of the conversation's energy. File. Web. Exercise 3. Sit down. When a conversation gets heated and you're standing, sit down. This is a dominance move disguised as de-escalation. You're signaling, I'm not threatened, I'm not leaving, I'm staying, and I'm staying calm. It often causes the other person to sit as well. Exercise 4. The 3-second pause. After someone says something provocative, count to 3 before responding. Breathe. Let the words settle. Then reply from a grounded place, not a reactive one. This pause is where your power lives. Exercise 5. The broken record. When someone is trying to bait you into an argument, don't engage with their logic. Just repeat your boundary calmly in different words. I'm not discussing this right now. This conversation is over until we're both calm. I've said what I'm going to say. Repetition without emotion is dominance. File. Exercise 6. Watch your hands. In tense conversations, notice what your hands are doing. Are they fidgeting, gesturing wildly, clenched? Train them to be still, on the table, in your lap, loosely by your sides. Stillness reads as control. Web 17. Exercise 7. Practice with low stakes. Don't wait for high-pressure situations to practice calm dominance. Start small. Practice staying calm when someone cuts you off in traffic, when a barista gets your order wrong, when someone is rude in line. These low-stakes moments are training for the big ones. File. Calm dominance is not about suppressing who you are. It's about mastering who you are. It's about being so in control of your emotional state that external chaos can't touch you. And when you can do that, when you can stand in the center of a storm and not move, you become the person everyone turns to. Because in a world full of reactivity, calm is rare, and rare things are valuable. Be the calm. Command the room without saying a word, and watch how quickly people stop testing you because they've learned that you can't be moved. Chapter 8. The Power of Strategic Silence. Elena was sitting in a boardroom negotiation. The other side had just made an offer, a lowball, clearly a test. Everyone on her team was preparing to respond, to counter, to explain why the number didn't work. Elena said nothing. She leaned back slightly, folded her hands, and held eye contact with the lead negotiator. 5 seconds passed. 10. 15. The silence grew heavy. The other side shifted in their seats. One cleared his throat. Finally, their lead spoke again. "Okay, let's talk about what would work for you." Elena hadn't said a word, but she'd won the round. Silence is one of the most underused tools in communication. Most people fear it. They rush to fill every pause with words, explanations, nervous laughter. They think silence means weakness, awkwardness, or lost opportunity. But silence, when used strategically, is one of the most powerful forms of communication. It commands attention, it creates pressure, it reveals information. And it positions you as someone who doesn't need to prove anything. Strategic silence is not avoidance. It's not passive aggression. It's intentional non-response. It's choosing not to speak because your silence will accomplish more than your words. And people who master this skill operate on a completely different level. Because while everyone else is talking, they're watching, learning, and waiting for the exact right moment to speak. Silence is dominance. Not the loud, aggressive kind. The quiet, unshakable kind. The kind that makes people lean in because they know when you finally speak, it will matter. The psychology of silence. Human beings are deeply uncomfortable with silence. It triggers anxiety. We're social creatures, and extended quiet feels like something's wrong, like connection has been lost. So our instinct is to fill the void, to say something, anything, to restore the flow of conversation. Web non web amo. This discomfort creates opportunity, because when you're comfortable with silence and the other person isn't, you hold the power. They'll start talking to fill the space. And when people talk to fill space, they reveal things they didn't intend to. They offer concessions. They expose insecurities. They show their hand, web. Silence also forces reflection. When you don't immediately respond, the other person has to sit with what they just said. They start questioning it. Did I say too much? Did I say the wrong thing? Why aren't they responding? That internal pressure often leads them to adjust, soften, or reconsider their position, all without you saying a word. In negotiation, silence is a weapon. In conflict, it's a shield. In everyday conversation, it's a filter. It prevents you from saying things you'll regret. It gives you time to think. And it communicates confidence, because only secure people are comfortable saying nothing. Web. 7. What strategic silence looks like. Strategic silence is not sulking. It's not the cold shoulder. It's not punishing someone by refusing to engage. Those are manipulative uses of silence, and people feel the difference immediately. Strategic silence is calm and deliberate. It's a pause that serves a purpose. In negotiation, you state your position, then stop. You don't justify. You don't elaborate. You let your offer sit in the silence. You wait for them to respond. If they counter, you pause before responding, making them sit with their own proposal. In conflict, someone accuses you of something. Instead of defending immediately, you let the silence stretch. You're not ignoring them. You're giving their words space to land, and often in that space they realize how harsh or unfair they sounded. When you finally respond, it's measured, not reactive. File. In conversation, someone asks a question designed to put you on the spot. Instead of scrambling for an answer, you pause, you think, you let them sit in the discomfort of waiting. Then you answer, or don't. Either way, you've controlled the moment. Web. After making a point, you say something important, then you stop. You don't add a closing remark. You don't ask if they understood. You let your statement breathe. That pause gives it weight. It forces people to actually absorb what you said. File. Strategic silence also means knowing when not to engage at all. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every provocation needs acknowledgement. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing and walk away. Weben Dunnersome. What silence communicates. When used correctly, silence says, I'm not desperate to be heard. People who constantly talk are seeking validation. Silent people already have it. I'm thinking, not reacting. Immediate responses are often emotional. Pauses signal control. Your move. Silence shifts pressure back onto the other person. They have to act. I'm comfortable with discomfort. Weak people fill awkward pauses. Strong people sit in them. I don't owe you an explanation. Not everything requires a response. Silence is a boundary. Web. Silence also amplifies what you do say. If you speak rarely, your words carry more weight. People listen more carefully because they've learned that when you talk, it's worth hearing. File. Web. Thirden. Real-life scenarios. At work, your manager asks why a project is delayed. You could launch into a detailed explanation listing every obstacle, every complication. Instead, you pause. Then, we hit 2 unexpected issues. We've already addressed one. The second will be resolved by Friday. You stop. Silence. If they want more detail, they'll ask. But you didn't bury them in information. You gave them what they needed and let the silence do the rest. File. In relationships, your partner says something hurtful during an argument. Your instinct is to fire back immediately. Instead, you go silent. Not cold, not punishing, just still. You look at them. You breathe. After 10 seconds, you say quietly, I'm going to need a minute. Then you leave the room. Your silence communicated more than any comeback could. It said, what you said landed. And I'm not going to respond from that place. Filed Orst, Web Luwutz. In negotiations, you're discussing salary. They offer a number below what you want. Instead of countering immediately, you stay silent. You hold eye contact. You let the number hang in the air. 5 seconds. 10. They start to get uncomfortable. Finally. Or we could go higher, depending on... You've just moved the negotiation in your favor without saying a word. Web 2. In social settings, someone makes a passive-aggressive comment aimed at you. Everyone hears it. They're waiting for your reaction. You pause. You look at the person calmly. 2 seconds. 3. Then you turn your attention to someone else and continue the previous conversation as if nothing was said. Your silence dismissed them more effectively than any response would have. Web. Setzt. In conflict, someone is yelling. listing everything you've ever done wrong. You don't interrupt, you don't defend, you stay completely silent, holding steady eye contact. When they finally run out of steam, you wait 3 more seconds, then, are you finished? Silence gave you control of the entire exchange file. Exact scripts, when to say nothing, instead of, well, actually, what happened was, long explanation. Say, state the outcome in 1 sentence, then stop. Let them ask if they need more. Instead of, I didn't mean it that way, let me explain. Say, pause, noted, then silence. Instead of, you're wrong and here's why, defensive argument. Say, hold eye contact, say nothing. Let their statement sit until they reconsider it themselves. Instead of, does that make sense? Should I explain more? Are we good? Say, make your point. Stop. Silence. If they're confused, they'll speak up. Instead of, sorry, I just wanted to add. Say, don't. If your point was already made, let it stand. Instead of, nervous laughter to fill awkward silence. Say, nothing. Sit in the silence. Stay present. Let them break it. The pattern. Resist the urge to fill space. Trust that silence is doing work you can't see. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The 5-second rule. In your next 3 conversations, pause for 5 full seconds before responding to any question. Count it in your head. This will feel eternal at first, but it trains you to think before speaking and builds comfort with silence. Exercise 2. 1-sentence responses. For 1 full day, limit every response to a single sentence, then stop talking. No elaboration unless directly asked. Notice how much more people engage when you stop over-explaining. File. Exercise 3. The silent confrontation. Next time someone says something you disagree with, don't respond verbally. Just hold eye contact for 3 seconds, then calmly redirect your attention elsewhere. Practice dismissing with silence instead of words. Exercise 4. Post-statement silence. After making an important point in a meeting or conversation, resist the urge to keep talking. Make your statement. Full stop. Count to 5 in your head. Let the silence amplify your words. Exercise 5. The negotiation pause. In any negotiation, salary, price, terms, after they make an offer, go silent for at least 10 seconds. Don't counter immediately. Let the discomfort build. Watch them start to negotiate against themselves. Exercise 6. Remove filler sounds. For 48 hours, eliminate like, and you know. When you feel one coming, pause silently instead. Silence is always stronger than filler. File. Exercise 7. Practice comfortable silence. Sit with a friend or partner in complete silence for 2 minutes. No phones, no talking. Just presence. This normalizes silence and removes the anxiety around it. Webb's Harmusur 19. Exercise 8. The exit without explanation. This week, leave one conversation without explaining why you're leaving. I need to go. Then go. No apology, no justification. Notice how liberating it feels to not owe everyone an explanation. Webb nods. The world is full of noise. Everyone is talking, explaining, defending, proving. Strategic silence sets you apart. It positions you as someone who doesn't need to fill every moment with sound. Someone who's comfortable in their own presence. Someone who understands that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Silence is not empty. It's full of intention, of control, of quiet dominance. Master it and you'll never need to raise your voice again, because your silence will speak louder than anyone else's words. Chapter 9. Handling disrespect without explaining yourself. Kyle was in the break room when a coworker made a snide comment about his presentation. Must be nice to wing it and still get credit. A few people chuckled. Kyle's first instinct was to defend himself, to explain how many hours he'd prepared, to justify his approach, to prove the comment was unfair. Instead, he looked at the coworker calmly, held eye contact for 2 seconds and said, "Interesting perspective." Then he poured his coffee and walked out. No defense, no explanation, no reaction. The room went quiet. Kyle had just shown everyone in that space what respect looks like, and it wasn't about proving anything. Disrespect will come. It comes in meetings, in relationships, in public spaces. It comes as passive-aggressive comments, dismissive tones, interruptions, or outright insults. And when it does, your instinct will be to explain yourself, to defend your position, to prove you're worthy of respect. But here's the truth. Explaining yourself to someone who disrespects you is a loss. Because the moment you justify your value to someone who's questioning it, you've accepted their frame. You've agreed that their opinion matters more than your own. Handling disrespect without explaining yourself is an advanced skill. It requires emotional control, self-assurance, and the understanding that respect is not something you argue for. It's something you embody. And when you stop defending, stop justifying, and stop engaging with disrespect on its terms, you send a message far more powerful than words. I don't need your approval to know my worth. The psychology of disrespect. Disrespect is often a test. People test your boundaries to see if you'll hold them. They test your confidence to see if it's real or performance. They test your emotional control to see if they can rattle you. File modum web. And if you react defensively, if you scramble to explain yourself, you've failed the test. You've shown that their words have power over you. When you defend yourself against disrespect, you validate it. You're saying, your opinion matters enough that I need to change it. But high-status people don't operate that way. They don't need everyone to see them correctly. They're secure enough in their own self-assessment that external judgments don't shake them. Web brilliance, web velocity. Disrespect also thrives on engagement. If someone insults you and you argue back, you've given them what they wanted. Your attention, your energy, your emotional reaction. But if you don't engage, if you dismiss it with calm indifference, the disrespect has nowhere to land. It bounces off. And the person who delivered it looks petty while you look unbothered. Webstivens. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means responding to disrespect in a way that maintains your dignity without lowering yourself to someone else's level. You don't ignore it. You acknowledge it, but you don't explain, defend, or justify. You simply draw a line and move on. What explaining yourself costs you. When you explain yourself in response to disrespect, several things happen. You hand over your power. You're letting them set the terms. You're reacting to their frame instead of holding your own. You appear insecure. Confident people don't need to justify themselves. The fact that you're explaining suggests doubt. You invite more disrespect. When people see that disrespect gets a reaction, they'll do it again. You've trained them that your boundaries are negotiable. Web. You exhaust yourself. Defending your value to people who don't see it is a losing game. You can't logic someone into respecting you. Respect is felt, not argued. You lose the room. If there are witnesses, over-explaining makes you look weak. People respect those who stay composed under fire, not those who scramble to defend. File on web. The strongest response to disrespect is non-response, or minimal response. You acknowledge that it happened, you set a boundary if necessary, and you move on, without giving it more weight than it deserves. What strong responses look like. Strong responses to disrespect are brief, calm, and final. They don't argue. They don't explain. They simply draw the line and enforce it. Dismissive acknowledgement. Noted. Then redirect your attention elsewhere. This says, I heard you. I'm choosing not to engage with it. Calm boundary setting. That's not okay. Don't do it again. No emotion, no elaboration, just a clear line. Web 22. Strategic silence. Say nothing. Hold eye contact for 2 seconds, then carry on as if they didn't speak. Your silence communicates, you're not worth a response. Web 29. Minimal redirection. We're not doing this. Then change the subject or leave the space. You're not explaining why. You're stating what is. Neutral observation. Interesting choice, then nothing else. This subtly calls out the disrespect without engaging with it directly. Notice the pattern. None of these responses defend. None explain. None seek to change the other person's mind. They simply mark the boundary and move forward. That's power. Real-life scenarios. At work, a colleague interrupts you for the 3rd time in a meeting. Instead of raising your voice or saying, "You keep interrupting me," you stop mid-sentence. You look at them calmly. Silence. They trail off uncomfortable. Then you continue exactly where you left off as if they hadn't spoken. You've just taught them that interrupting you has no effect. File. Web. In relationships, a family member makes a dig at your life choices during dinner. Still doing that little hobby of yours? Everyone's listening. You don't defend your choices. You don't explain why your work matters. You simply say, "I'm not discussing that." If they push, "I said I'm not discussing it." Then you turn to someone else. You didn't engage. You didn't justify. You shut it down. Web 21. In social settings. Someone makes a condescending comment about something you said. "That's cute." You pause, look at them. Then, "Thanks for your input." Flat tone, no smile. Then you continue your previous conversation as if they don't exist. You acknowledged and dismissed in one breath. Web Bomodorosefun. Online. Someone leaves a disrespectful comment on your post. Your instinct is to explain yourself, to correct them, to defend your point. Instead, you delete the comment or ignore it entirely. You don't owe strangers your energy. Your silence says, you're not important enough to engage. File. In conflict, someone calls you out in front of others, attacking your character. You're always so selfish. You don't defend yourself. You don't list all the ways you're not selfish. You say calmly, "I disagree." That's it. 2 words. Then you either leave or redirect. You're not debating your character with someone who's already decided to disrespect you. File Maboskst. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, "That's not true. Let me explain why you're wrong about me." Say, "I see it differently." End of discussion. Instead of, "How dare you? Do you know how hard I've worked? You have no idea what I've been through." Say, "That was out of line." Then silence or exit. Instead of, "I'm not what you think. Let me tell you all the reasons you're mistaken about me." Say, "Think what you want." Then disengage. Instead of, "You always do this. You never respect me. Why can't you just..." Say, "This conversation is over." Then leave. Instead of, "I can't believe you just said that. Let me explain why that's offensive." Say, "Noted." Then shift attention elsewhere. Instead of, "You don't understand. If you just let me explain," or say, "Don't. They're not interested in understanding. Stop trying to convince them." The pattern. You're not defending yourself. You're not explaining yourself. You're simply marking the disrespect and moving on. That's dignity. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The non-defense challenge. For 1 week, do not defend yourself when criticized. unless it's constructive feedback from someone you respect. If it's disrespect or pettiness, respond with, okay, or say nothing. Notice how much energy you save. File. Exercise 2. The 2-second stare. Next time someone disrespects you, hold eye contact for 2 full seconds before responding, or not responding. This communicates, I see what you just did. I'm choosing not to engage. It's unnerving for them and empowering for you. Web 17. Exercise 3. The redirect. Practice not taking the bait. When someone tries to provoke you with a disrespectful comment, don't address it. Change the subject or turn to someone else. Your refusal to engage is the response. Web 17. Exercise 4. Exit without justification. This week, leave one conversation where you're being disrespected. Don't explain why you're leaving. Don't say, I don't appreciate your tone, or I'm not going to sit here and be insulted. Just, I'm done with this conversation. Then go. Web 20. Exercise 5. The broken record for boundaries. If someone repeatedly disrespects a boundary, don't explain it again. Just repeat it calmly. I said no. I'm not discussing this. That's not acceptable. Same words, same tone, no elaboration. Eventually they'll realize you mean it. File Mutz. Web 2. Exercise 6. Write the defense, then delete it. When you're tempted to defend yourself, especially online, write out the full explanation. Get it out of your system, then delete it and post nothing, or post something minimal. Noted. Practice the discipline of not needing to be understood by everyone. File. Exercise 7. Practice indifference. Choose one person whose opinion genuinely doesn't matter to you. Notice how easy it is not to defend yourself to them. Now apply that same indifference to others who disrespect you. Their opinion is just noise. Treat it that way. Web 14. Disrespect is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of the other person's insecurity, frustration, or lack of emotional control. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for who you are. You don't owe them proof of your worth. You don't owe them a defense. The people who respect you don't need explanations. The people who disrespect you won't care about your explanations. So stop wasting your energy trying to convince people who've already decided not to see you clearly. Handle disrespect by refusing to engage with it on its terms. Acknowledge it if necessary. Set a boundary if needed, then move on. Your silence, your calm, your refusal to defend, that's the response that earns respect. Not from everyone, but from the people who matter. And most importantly, from yourself. Chapter 10. Becoming the person whose words end discussions. There are people who talk, and then there are people whose words end discussions. When the first type speaks, the conversation continues. People debate, challenge, add their own opinions. When the second type speaks, the room goes quiet. Not because they're loud, not because they're aggressive, but because what they said landed with such clarity and weight that there's nothing left to argue about. The conversation is over, the decision is made, and everyone moves forward. Sophia sat through 40 minutes of back and forth in a leadership meeting. The team was stuck, circling the same points, no one willing to make the call. Finally, she leaned forward and said, "Here's what we're doing. We're moving forward with option 2, adjusting the timeline by 2 weeks and assigning clear ownership by end of day. Any objections that change the decision?" Silence. One person nodded. Another said, "That works." The meeting ended 5 minutes later. Sophia didn't dominate the conversation, she ended it. And that's the skill most people never develop. Becoming the person whose words end discussions is not about being the loudest or the most senior. It's about speaking with such clarity, calm, and authority that people instinctively defer to your judgment. It's about building a reputation where your words are trusted, where when you speak, people know it's been thought through. where your presence alone shifts the energy from debate to decision. This is the final level of communication mastery, and it's built on everything that came before. Presence, groundedness, boundaries, silence, and self-respect. When all of those are in place, your words don't just contribute, they conclude. The psychology of final authority. Human beings are wired to look for leadership, especially in moments of uncertainty. When a group is stuck, when no one knows what to do next, there's a collective search for someone to follow, and the person who steps into that space with calm certainty becomes the de facto leader, regardless of title. Web. The reason most people don't step into that role is fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of taking responsibility, fear of being challenged. So they wait, they hedge, they offer opinions softly, leaving room to backtrack if the group doesn't agree. But that hesitation is exactly what disqualifies them from being the person whose words end discussions. File. People whose words carry final authority don't wait for permission. They don't check the room's temperature before speaking. They assess the situation, form a clear position, and state it with conviction. Not arrogance, conviction. There's a difference. Arrogance is performative. Conviction is quiet and certain. When you speak with conviction, you trigger something psychological in others. Relief. The burden of decision-making is exhausting. Most people are grateful when someone else takes it on, as long as that person seems competent and grounded. Your certainty gives them permission to stop debating and start executing. File. What separates discussion enders from everyone else? They speak last, not first. They listen to the full conversation before weighing in. This ensures their input is informed and relevant. It also builds anticipation. When they finally speak, people are ready to listen. File. Web. They distill complexity into clarity. While others add layers, they simplify. They cut through noise and name the core issue in 1 or 2 sentences. Clarity ends debate because it removes ambiguity. File. They speak in decisions, not suggestions. They don't say, maybe we could consider. They say, here's what we're doing. They shift the conversation from exploration to action. Web 14. They own the risk. They're willing to be wrong. They don't hedge with I think or it might be best. They commit, and that commitment signals confidence which others trust. Web. They don't over-explain. Once they've made their point, they stop. They trust their words to stand without justification. Over-explanation dilutes authority. File. They stay emotionally neutral. No frustration, no defensiveness, no need to win. They're simply solving the problem. That neutrality makes them trustworthy. File. They don't repeat themselves. They say it once, clearly. If people need clarification, they'll ask. But they don't say the same thing 3 ways to make sure it landed. That's insecurity talking. File. What it looks like in practice. In meetings. The team has been debating a decision for 20 minutes. You've been quiet, observing. When there's a natural pause, you say, we're going with option B. It addresses the core issue without overcomplicating the execution. We'll revisit in 30 days if needed. Let's move on. No one argues. The meeting continues. You've just saved everyone 15 more minutes of circular conversation. Web through. In relationships, you and your partner have been discussing where to go for vacation, back and forth, no resolution. You finally say, let's book the mountains. We both need quiet, and it fits the budget. I'll make the reservation this weekend. Your tone is calm, not controlling. You're not asking, you're deciding. And because you've been collaborative up to this point, they trust the call. File. In crisis, Something goes wrong at work. Everyone's panicking, pointing fingers, talking over each other. You let the noise settle. Then you say, here's what matters right now. First, we contain the issue. Second, we communicate with the client. Third, we debrief and fix the process. I'll handle the client. Sarah, you manage containment. We reconvene in 2 hours. People exhale. You've given them structure in chaos. That's leadership. File. In conflict. 2 people are arguing. It's getting heated, going nowhere. You step in. You both want the same outcome. The disagreement is execution. Here's a middle path. State it in 2 sentences. Try that first. If it doesn't work, we revisit. Both sides pause. They accept it because you didn't take sides. You solved the problem. File. Exact scripts. What to say to end discussions. Instead of, I don't know, what do you guys think? Maybe we could try this or maybe not, I'm not sure. Say, here's my recommendation. State it. Unless someone has a critical concern, let's move forward. Instead of, I think maybe we should consider possibly going in this direction, but I'm open to other ideas. Say, we're going with this approach, here's why. 1 sentence, let's execute. Instead of, can we all agree on this? Does everyone feel good about it? Say, this is the decision. If there's a deal breaker, speak now, otherwise we're done. Instead of, I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems like maybe we should. Say, here's what we're doing. State it. Questions? Instead of, so I've been thinking a lot about this, and after considering all the options and weighing everything. Say, the answer is X. Here's the next step. Instead of, does that make sense? Are we all on the same page? Should I explain more? Say, state your position, then stop. If they need clarification, they'll ask. The pattern: brevity, clarity, decisiveness. You're not seeking consensus, you're providing direction. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The last to speak rule. In your next 3 group conversations or meetings, say nothing until at least 5 people have spoken. Listen fully. Then when you do speak, synthesize what's been said and offer a clear path forward. Notice how much more weight your words carry when you're not competing for airtime. File mode. Web. Exercise 2. 1-sentence decisions. Practice stating decisions in a single sentence. We're doing X. Not, I think we should probably consider X because of Y and Z. Just the decision. Clean. Final. Do this 10 times this week. File. Exercise 3. Remove hedging language. For 48 hours, eliminate these phrases. I think maybe, when we could possibly, but it might be good to, I'm not sure, but replace them with direct statements. We should. Here's the plan. The answer is, notice how much more authoritative you sound. File. Web 14. Exercise 4. End one meeting early. In a meeting that's dragging, step in with, I think we have what we need. Let's wrap up and execute. Then actually end the meeting. Practice the skill of calling time when the conversation has run its course. Web. Exercise 5. Take ownership in uncertainty. When a group is stuck and no one's deciding, say, I'll make the call. We're going with option. I'll own the outcome. Then move forward. Practice being the person who steps into the void. Web. File. Exercise 6. Speak less, decide more. Reduce your word count by 50% in all conversations. Say half as much. But when you do speak, make it a decision or a direction. Quality over quantity. Your words should move things forward, not just add noise. File. Exercise 7. Practice the final word. In low-stakes conversations, where to eat, what movie to watch, practice being the one who makes the final call. Let's go with this. Not rudely, just decisively. Build the muscle of ending discussions before applying it to higher stakes situations. Web 14. Building the reputation. Becoming the person whose words end discussions doesn't happen overnight. It's built through consistency. Every time you speak with clarity instead of confusion, every time you offer direction instead of debate, every time you follow through on what you said, you're building a reputation. People start to notice, they start to trust your judgment, they start to wait for your input before making decisions. And eventually, when you speak, the room shifts. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. This reputation is fragile at first. One moment of hedging, one moment of backtracking, one moment of speaking just to fill space, and you lose credibility. So protect it. Speak only when you have something clear to say. And when you do speak, mean every word. The responsibility that comes with it. Being the person whose words end discussions comes with weight. People will look to you. They'll expect you to have answers. They'll hold you accountable when things go wrong. And that's the price of authority. But here's what most people miss. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing. Willing to step up when others won't. Willing to take the hit if you're wrong. Willing to carry the responsibility of decision-making. That willingness, more than anything, is what earns you the right to be the person whose words matter most. Web Stelmannen, Web Samardifatin. You won't always be right, but if you own your decisions, learn from your mistakes, and continue showing up with clarity and calm, people will keep listening. Because they'd rather follow someone who makes clear decisions and course corrects than someone who never decides at all. Becoming the person whose words end discussions is not about control. It's about service. You're ending the discussion because the group needs direction, and you're willing to provide it. You're not silencing others, you're moving everyone forward. And when done with respect and competence, that's not dominance, that's leadership. Speak with clarity, speak with conviction, speak with brevity, and become the person whose words don't just contribute, they conclude. Conclusion. Respect is not loud, it's not aggressive, it's not about proving you're right or winning every argument. Respect is quiet, steady, and earned through how you carry yourself when no one is forcing you to. It's built in the pauses you take instead of reacting, in the boundaries you hold without apologizing, in the silence you're comfortable sitting in while others scramble to fill the space. You've learned that people don't respect your words until they respect your presence. That needing approval kills your authority faster than any mistake ever could. That speaking from emotion might feel justified, but it always costs you control. You've learned the psychology of status, the power of saying less, and the strength that comes from staying calm when everyone else is falling apart. You now understand that boundaries don't need long explanations. That silence is not weakness, it's strategy. That disrespect doesn't deserve your defense. And that the person whose words end discussions is not the one who talks the most, but the one who speaks with clarity, conviction, and calm. None of this is about becoming someone you're not. It's about removing the habits that weaken you, the over-explaining, the approval-seeking, the emotional reactivity, the need to fill every silence with noise. Strip those away, and what's left is the real you, grounded, clear, and unshakable. This is not a one-time shift. It's a practice. Every conversation is an opportunity to apply what you've learned. Every moment of tension is a chance to stay centered instead of reactive. Every boundary you hold, every silence you sit with, every time you choose calm over chaos, you're reinforcing the person you're becoming. Some people won't like this version of you. The one who doesn't explain, the one who doesn't chase approval, the one who says no without guilt. Let them go. You're not here to be comfortable for everyone. You're here to command respect. From others, yes, but more importantly, from yourself. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to argue to be right. You don't need to perform to be valued. You just need to show up, speak with intention, hold your ground, and trust that the people who matter will see it. And the ones who don't? They were never your audience. Respect is not something you demand, it's something you embody. And now, you know how. Go forward, speak less, mean more, stay grounded, and become the person whose presence alone commands the room without saying a word. If this audiobook has brought you clarity, strength, or peace, consider supporting the channel so more people can find this message. Please like this audio and subscribe. Your support helps this work reach those who feel overwhelmed, anxious, or unprotected, and gives them a path back to calm, confidence, and emotional freedom. Thank you for listening. Stay grounded. Stay wise. You are the anchor in every storm.